Hey guys, we're doing well today. So yeah, in today's video we'll talk about Scotland versus Wales for round 2 of the Six Nations. So yeah, this is actually going to be a very interesting game. You know, both teams are coming off wins after round 1. Obviously Scotland did beat England, which was I'm not going to say a surprise in a sense, but obviously in my opinion I see Scotland as the surprise team who can win the Six Nations. And by winning that game against England at Twickenham is a very good start. So that was a very good win for them. And obviously Wales actually beating Ireland at home, that was another good win for them. You know, it's their really first big win you can say in a while. And yeah, no, obviously you could say that Ireland did have a red card, so Wales did have the advantage. But I think overall Wales did play pretty well. So yeah, it's a good. This will be definitely an interesting battle to see who keeps their 100% record alive, or who keeps on winning. So yeah, we'll see from here. But yeah, just here's the lineups here for both teams. It's going to be actually a very interesting lineups for both sides. When you look at obviously with Scotland first, I mean they've done very well in that aspect where, I mean, yeah, they haven't really changed much, and I wouldn't really expect them to, but they've also have suffered from injuries. So no, when you look at the props, for example, obviously they have Roy Sunderland and Ferguson, who did very well for Scotland during that game against England. I thought their scrum was brilliant. I mean, like they won. They did very well within the scrum. They didn't give many penalties away, and that's what I was really impressed by. So yeah, they probably were on the top of my list who actually did very well for Scotland. And yeah, I think overall, I mean, when you compare them to like the props that Wales have, I mean, obviously, when you look at Wyn Jones and Francis, and Wyn Jones was the man of the match within that game against Ireland. So it's actually a very hotly contested battle, you could say, within this game, and it'll be a key matchup, you can say, and who will actually win that battle within the scrum. I mean, if I have to say who'll win that battle, I'd probably edge it towards Scotland, purely on the basis that I think they have a better combination. But bar than that, I mean, Wyn Jones was very good within that game against Ireland, so he's definitely one to look out for. But yeah, no, when you look at the hookers, obviously you have Turner, who's done very well. I think he's played obviously before, but he made a very good start to his Scotland career in that sense. Where, I mean, I'm not going to say a good start, but it's more or less where he had a decent game in that sense. Where most of his line-outs were pretty accurate. I mean, at sometimes England did get the ball back, but it was kind of for both sides in a sense. And yeah, I think other than that, I mean, within the scrum, I think his tackling success was pretty good, but other than that, I think he had a good game overall. And when you really compare it to Wales, obviously you have Ken Owens. I mean, Owens is just more or less like he's just another one. He was pretty successful again with his lineouts, and I don't really think Ireland were able to contest a lot of his throws within the lineouts, so he did pretty well in that area. But other than that, I think when I really compare the two, I'd probably edge it towards Owens in that aspect, purely based on experience and what he brings to Wales. But yeah, no, it's a very close battle within that aspect, that area as well. So yeah, moving on to the locks. So the locks is probably the key battle in my opinion throughout this game. When you look at obviously Scotland, and you can see one of the guys here in goal is Gray, in a sense, where I think Johnny Gray will be one of the. If he has a good game, then I feel Scotland will win. Straight up, I think he was one of the I would say he was one of the standout performances within the whole game against England. I mean, he was immaculate. Like where he was very good in getting the ball within the air. He was also very good in stealing the ball within lineouts, as well as being very efficient within the scrum. They won a lot of scrums off him, I would say, in that aspect, and where he was very clinical within the breakdown. So he just needs to bring more of that energy, you could say, within this match, but. Overall, he was very good. I mean, and obviously his partner in crime within the lock position, he also had a very good game in Cumming, and Cumming was also another. He had a solid performance. So that's kind of what you expect after a victory against England. So overall, those two had a good evening against England within round 1. But then when you compare it against Wales, who had Wyn Jones, obviously, who was the captain of the side, and then his partner in crime, when you had Beard, I mean, it was more or less like where they did very well to control the game. And most of it comes down to obviously the red card in that aspect, where they were able to control the game in the latter stages. But I would probably edge it towards Scotland in the aspect, just following after their success within round 1. But if you're talking about sheer experience, I mean, you can't really get much better than Wyn Jones. But yeah, moving on to the loose forwards. So the loose forwards is a very interesting one in the sense where both of them actually have very good loose forwards to their to use in a sense. Obviously, with Scotland, they actually have. They've had make a substitution in the sense where they've They've replaced They've replaced Jamie Ritchie with Thompson. So that's a very interesting one in the sense where I'm guessing Jamie Ritchie is part of the group that's actually who suffered from injury after that England game. So that's a huge loss, you could say, for Scotland in that aspect. But they still do have obviously Hamish Watson, who was brilliant, and Ferguson. So I think both of them will be immense, you could say. I think both of them were just insane to watch. I mean, I particularly loved watching, Hamish Watson within that game. I think he made some very good ball carries throughout the game, as well as his tackling stats were pretty good. So overall, just excited to see what they bring to the table, and I think they'll be very clinical within the breakdown as well. But yeah, when you obviously compare it to the Wales side, I mean the Wales loose forwards, in my opinion, is probably my favourite out of all the nations. I just love their loose forwards, and this is probably the best combination I think they can go with. And they have Aaron Wainwright, who's coming into the side, and yeah, he's the guy I've put in gold. And the reason why is that he, like Warren Gatland has said for the Lions, he is the key player who I think that he also thinks that can actually progress into one of the best loose forwards in Europe. So it was very interesting to see that how he was also recommending him for the Lions, and he kept a good eye on him. So he's definitely one to look out for within this match. I think he can make a huge difference, and yeah, he's definitely going to be immense. And yeah, obviously he has his other loose forwards with Justin Tipperick, who actually, I think, almost broke the tackling success within that game against Ireland. I mean, he had a ton of tackles. I think he had the most tackles. I think he had 29 tackles, which is like the third most tackles ever in Six Nations history. So credit to him, that was pretty good from him. And then obviously Faletau, who's just generally a solid player, and I think he had a good performance against Ireland. So yeah, overall, good loose forward pack there. I'll probably edge it to Wales in this area just because of their sheer dominance and chemistry as well, and how they've played a lot together. So yeah, Wales definitely gets a shout within the loose forward selection. So yeah, moving on to the backs. The backs is very interesting in the sense where both teams will want to continue their try scoring form, and obviously will want to get more tries on the board, and yeah, that comes obviously with the number 9 position with Ali Price continuing on to be the scrum half for Scotland, and I thought he had a good game. Obviously, you could say at the early stages of the game, he was getting a lot of his kicks, you could say, blocked from Itoje, which is kind of I'm not going to say usual from the scene, but you kind of you're just like, come on, like you gotta like make sure you don't do it like 3 times. But overall, I think he had a solid game after that, and yeah, I think he really brought he really impacted the side. But when you obviously compare it to Wales, you have Davis. I mean, Davis is an interesting one. Obviously, he's coming in for Tommy Williams, which is actually an interesting take. And I think Gareth Davis is one of those players who just he's so good. He's so good. I mean, in my opinion, I think he should be the scrum half for the Lions, but that's another video. But he's brilliant. So I'm happy to see that he's in the starting lineup, and definitely he'll definitely make an impact for sure. So yeah, in that position, I'm going to give it to Gareth Davis straight away. But yeah, moving on to the 10th position. I mean, obviously with Dan Biggar with Wales, and then for Scotland you have Finn Russell. I mean, they're two different kind of players in the sense where Finn Russell, I mean, they both are playmakers, but the way that they actually actually find spaces is completely different. How Dan Biggar is really focuses on the kick in the arc, and how he likes to position his kick where he tries to make the other team obviously not fumble the ball or just he's really good within that aspect. But I think Finn Russell edges it for me. I mean, purely on the basis where he just has more of an effect for Scotland compared to what Dan Biggar does for Wales, but. It's a very close margin. I think that's only because I like the way that Finn Russell really goes about actually his playmaking ability within the side, and how he's able to find pinpoint gaps within the defense. So yeah, he's definitely another player to look out for within that 10 position. But yeah, I said Finn Russell just edges that. But then when you look at the centers is the area where both sides are lacking because both sides have actually suffered from injuries in that section. Obviously, the introduction of Cameron Redpath for Scotland, he was the man of the match for the last game, and he was brilliant for them. But unfortunately, he's actually been part of the group now who's injured for this game. I mean, hopefully we'll see him within round 3. Well, I don't know how bad the injury is, but he won't be a part of that. So that does mean that they've had to shift the centre combination, and Scotland have gone with Lang and Harris. So obviously Harris will now will drop into the 13 slot. But other than that, I think it's a solid combination. To be honest, I don't know too much about Lang, but I know that he's a solid player. So hopefully he'll do well. But But when you look at, obviously, with Wales, I mean, Wales actually have Nick Tompkins, who's actually come back into the side, which I'd like to see. You know, he was known within the last Six Nations to gain a lot of ball carrying meters and break a lot of defenses, so that's one of the key things he's known for, like clean breaks, really. So that's good. He's a good, you know, centre to have. But obviously they are without George North. You know, he's not, you know, being in the centre spot anymore like he was within the last game at 13, and they've now gone with Watkin, which I think he's solid. He's just another solid player, but he doesn't really bring that, you know, standout ability like George North does, and try scoring sense of what he can really bring to the side. So it's a close one, but I'd probably edge it towards. I'll probably edge it towards Wales within this position, purely on the basis where I think Nick Tompkins will make more of an impact within the centre position. But yeah, when you look at the wingers for both sides, this is where it gets hotly contested, you could say, where obviously Scotland have Van der Merwe and, Graham. But then when you actually look at the Wales, I mean, they have Lewis Sammet's actually done he's done very well for Wales recently. He got a try to his name within the Ireland games, so that's good to see. But then they also have Liam Williams, who's actually played with the 11th spot, so that's actually good to see. I mean, obviously he's come back into the side now, and he just brings a lot of experience. That's what you really want from a player who has, you know, he brings experience to the side, and that's really needed within a game like this. So yeah, that's a good player to have, and just because of that, I'll probably edge it towards Wales in that aspect, purely on the basis where they have one player who has a lot of experience and one player who has a lot of potential to become a very good winger. So yeah, I'm definitely edging towards Wales in that position. But yeah, final one just for these. I mean, fullbacks. I think it's pretty simple who I'm going to choose here. Yeah, Lee Halfpenny versus Stuart Hogg, but all day I'm choosing Stuart Hogg. He was brilliant for Scotland within that last match, and yeah, I think he'll do the same within this match, to be honest. And I think they have a good chance of winning. So yeah, just with the prediction overall, I mean, that's kind of it with the lineups, but with the prediction overall, I do think because Scotland are at home, they will continue their form after their impressive England result. I do think this will be a close game because obviously both sides are suffering from injuries, but I do think the score will end up at, I'll say 2016, yeah, 2016 to Scotland. That's my final prediction for that. So yeah, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and you definitely comment below. Just tell me what you guys think and who you guys think will win. So anyway, hope you guys have a good day and see you guys next time.